Alright guys, what we're going to do in our next video is we are going to talk about volume of cylinders and cones. So what I have right here is our math chart with our formulas. Again, you don't have to memorize these formulas, we just have to be aware of what they represent and how to use them. So what we're going to look at today is volume right here, and you'll see that it says prism, which we've already talked about, and then it says or cylinder. And then pyramids, which we've also talked about, how to find the volume of a pyramid. And then it says cone. So if you look, whether you're a prism or a cylinder, your formula is V equals capital BH. So that capital B, remember, is area of the base. So we're going to have to use these area formulas up here. So that's why we've been practicing shading the base to see what kind of shape it is. So if you have a triangular prism, you're going to find the area of that base and then multiply by height of the prism. But if we're thinking about it, if it's a cylinder, or whatever base it was, a rectangle or parallelogram or trapezoid or anything like that, but if you're a cylinder, your base is a circle. So that's what we're going to use the area of the base times the height of the cylinder. Okay? Then if you're a pyramid or a cone, we had 1/3 of that. And what we've talked about there is we've seen that video where we had a pyramid that had the same base. It's like a base of a square with the same height as a square prism or a cube. So that's why it takes 3 of those pyramids to fill up the equal prism. Okay? And you're also going to see, if you haven't watched already, about that relationship with the cylinder and cones. So this is why your area formulas are the same. So the cone is basically like a pyramid that has a circular base. Okay? So think about it. If you have like a snow cone, it has that circular base, and that cup that's holding it, that height, so that's what it looks like. So basically a cylinder is kind of like a curved prism, and a cone is like a curved pyramid where those bases are going to be circles. So for that big B, we're going to use the area of the base. Okay? Alright, so just kind of think about a few things. So volume, in case you forgot, is the capacity, what can be inside a figure. So area is also inside a figure, but it's two-dimensional, where volume is capacity, how much something can hold, like a liquid or popcorn kernels or anything like that. So that's what volume is. So, or the water, like we talked about with the pyramids and prisms. So what is the formula for the volume of a cylinder? Well, here again, a cylinder is like a curved prism, so it's just going to have the same formula, area of the base times height, where the capital B stands for area of the base, and the H stands for the height, or the height between the bases. So we're going to do 2 examples together, and then you're going to try one on your own and check in with your teacher. So here we have, it looks like a prism, but at closer glance, I shouldn't say closer looking, we can see that right here, that's why we always want to shade the base. So the base right here is a circle. So the base is a circle. So it looks like a prism, but if you have a base of a circle, it's a special kind of prism. We're going to call that a cylinder. Okay, so the cylinder is when your base is a circle. Okay, so again, we're going to use that formula because it is a cylinder. We have right here, V equals capital BH. So V equals capital B times H. I'm going to do that in a different color to help us out. Remember, the height is the distance between the prism, or in this case, between the cylinder. So we have right there. Okay, so we know that the height of the cylinder is 7. So remember, the big B stands for area of the base. Well, in this case, we have a circle. So your area formula for a circle, we use our math chart right here, pi r squared. So we say pi times radius squared, or you can say pi times radius times radius. That means the same thing. Okay. So if we substitute that in, let's go ahead and see what that looks like. That's just kind of chunking it together to see what you got. So we could rewrite this where the area of the base is pi r squared. So I'm going to substitute that in for that area of the base, pi r squared times the height. Okay? So this is for a prism. This is for a cylinder. So it's kind of taking that one step further. So pi is your constant times the radius. Well, from the center to the edge, that is my radius right there. So 1 to the power of 2 times the height of the prism, which is 7. So we start with the formula, area of the prism, volume of the prism or cylinder. We substitute it to make it this way for specifically the cylinder, because the area of the base is the area of a circle, pi r squared, and then we have our equation with our volume. So after you have that formula, now we can substitute to make our equation and use that into our calculator. So again, I know it's a little difficult to see on here, but hopefully you have your calculator ready. So we're going to say pi times 1 to the power of 2, or 1 times 1, times 7. Remember that exponent 2 means repeated multiplication of the base. So you could type in your calculator pi times 1 times 1 times 7, and you'll get the same thing. So hopefully you got 21.991485751. But we're going to round to the nearest thousandth. So that's going to be 29 and 991 thousandths, because we have another 1 in that next 10 thousandths place. So remember, 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, add 1 more. And my units are going to be meters to the 3rd power. Okay? So if you have questions after that first example, you can pause the video and reach out to your teacher, or maybe seeing a couple other examples might help you out. So let's see what we got. All right. So find the volume. Well, first of all, this is going to be a cylinder. Again, think about that as like a curved prism. So looking at my formula chart, volume equals area of the base times height. So if I shade the base is a circle. So the area formula, for a circle is pi r squared. So that's what we're going to substitute right here where we see that big B. So let's rewrite that. Volume equals pi r squared times the height. Well, for me, I like to go ahead and figure out the height first, because that's the easiest way to see. So we have our 2 bases, and the distance connecting those bases is that 8. So I'm going to go ahead and put 8 right here. On this one, I'm going to write it in parentheses just to show you that putting that dot in between or putting parentheses, that also means multiplication. So pi, and then now we need our radius. Well, this one is going from the outside through the center to the edge. So what this represents is the diameter. And we're not going to put the diameter right there, because the area formula for a circle has to have the radius. So remember, if we have the diameter divided by 2 gives you the radius. So we're going to say 6 2/10 divided by 2. So you have to have the radius for the area formula for a circle, and for the volume of a circle too, since we need the area of that base. So 6 2/10 divided by 2 is going to give you 3 1/10. Again, I know it's a little difficult to see, so hopefully you have your calculator with you as well. So that's what we need to use, not the 6.2. So 3.1. So now we have everything that we need. You can even rewrite this. Oh, I forgot my exponent of 2. I'm glad I double checked that. So it's pi times radius squared times the height of the cylinder. Or you can say pi times 3.1 times 3.1 times 8. Remember, 3.1 to the 2nd power is the same thing as 3.1 times 3.1. So whatever makes you more comfortable to type into your calculator, because maybe if you forget to write those exponents, if you want to rewrite it that way, that's going to give you the same value. Okay? So let's go ahead and see what you get. So we're going to say pi times 3.1 to the 2nd power, or pi times 3.1 times 3.1 times 8. And you should get 241.525643208. But we're going to round to the nearest thousandths. So that should give us 241,526. Got ahead of myself. 241,526 centimeters cubed. I started to write my 6 instead of my 2 first. That's okay, that's why we double check our numbers. Okay? So again, volume of a cylinder is the same formula as volume of a prism. But we know that the area of the base is pi r squared because the base is always a circle in a cylinder. Alright, let's look at this next one. On this one, we want you to try this one on your own. So start with your formula, V equals area of the base times height. But remember the base is a circle, so V equals pi r squared times h. Or you can say V equals pi times radius times height. These two mean the same thing when you're talking about volume of the cylinder. Okay, so pause the video, try this one out, and then reach out to your teacher to see if you got it right. Alright, so we're going to continue going on to talk about cones. So this is that link for the video about talking about the relationship between a cylinder and cones. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you do get that done. So it's telling you why we have this 1/3 in front. Okay, we'll stop and think about it. If you think about a cone, it looks like this. Kind of looks like a snow cone, right? So this is where the ice goes all the way in. We put the syrup on top and everything like that. Well, a cone is just like a curved pyramid. So that's another reason why it has that 1/3 in front, just like what we've already talked about with pyramids. Okay? So with a cone, it takes 3 cones with a circle that has the same circumference and the same height of a similar cylinder. No, that sounds funny, similar cylinder. So if I had a cylinder that had a circle with a radius of 6 and a cylinder with a height of 12, if I filled up this with popcorn kernels and poured it into that cylinder, I would take 3 of these cones to fill up that one cylinder. So if I only want one of the cone's volume, that's 1 out of 3. So that's why we have that coefficient there. So this is the formula that we're going to use for a cone. So that's what we always want to start with. So identify the shape. This is a cone. If we wanted to do the volume, we say volume equals 1/3 area of the base times height. Well, just like a pyramid, a cone only has one base. So a cylinder is like a curved prism that has 2 bases. A cone has one base and the vertex. Okay? So if we were to shade the base like that, and just like with the cylinder, the height is connecting the bases. Well, because there's only one base and one vertex for the cone, the height is connecting between the base and the vertex. So this is your height right here. Okay? So this is why we talked about prisms and pyramids before we even started talking about cylinders and cones, to really relate those formulas. So we're going to go ahead and look at this and solve it. 1/3, well, the base itself, the base is a circle. So the base is a circle in a cone and in a cylinder. So the big B, the area of the base, is going to be pi r squared. So anytime you have the volume of a cone, you're going to do 1/3 times pi r squared times the height. Forgot to do that one in blue. Okay? So this one looks a little intense, but we can do it. We can say 1/3. Another way to say it is pi. 1/3 times pi times radius times height. So it looks a little extended, but however you feel comfortable plugging into the calculator. Now remember, little side note, when...
Okay.
Oh, sorry, my watch started talking to me. When you multiply by 1/3, that is the same as dividing everything by 3. So I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can type this into the calculator. just because I really want to make sure that you use the way that works best for you. So let's start with this first one, the original one, 1/3 times pi r squared times height. So volume equals 1/3 times pi times my radius. Well, from the center to the edge, that's my radius is 6. So 1/3 times pi times 6 squared times the height of the cone, which is 12. So now hopefully you're seeing why we've always told you, start with a formula, substitute to make the equation. We've been telling you to write these things down and not just work them all in your head or just type them into your calculator, because if you miss one step, it throws the whole thing off. Okay? So if you are typing this into your calculator just like this, remember you need to put parentheses around that 1/3. So we're going to do the fraction bar with the division. That way they're showing that in the calculator doing 1/3 times that. So it's a little intense, but let's see if we can do it. So you can do open parentheses, 1 divided by 3, then close your parentheses to make sure you're telling the calculator you just want that as a fraction of 1/3 times pi times 6 to the second power, and then times 12. So you have to be very, very, very careful when you type that in. Then when you type that in, rounding to the nearest thousandth, you're going to get 452 and 389 cubic centimeters. Okay? Now, the second way we could have typed this in, when you're multiplying by 1/3, that's the same thing as dividing by 3. So really, we can say area of the base times height divided by 3. So we could rewrite it this way. Okay? Well, the area of the base is a cone, because it's circle, the base, because the base is a circle, we can say pi r squared times your height, and then divide by 3. So let's see if this is a little easier for you to type in. You would still need to use your open parentheses, so you're saying that this pi r squared times height, that would be like if it's the cylinder, but then we're dividing by 3 because we only want to know about one of those cones. So pi times, our radius was 6 to the power of 2, times my height, which was 12. So it's very important that you put all of this in parentheses, because this is saying area of the base times the height of the cone, and then divide by 3. So either way, you're going to get the same answer. So it just depends on what you feel more comfortable with typing in the calculator. So open parentheses, pi times 6 squared, or 6 times 6, times 12, then close your parentheses. If you stop there, you're going to get 1,357, but we have to divide by 3. And sure enough, you're going to get 452 and 389 thousandths, just like what we got over here. Okay, so I know that one was a lot of steps, so if you need to pause the video or rewind it to kind of see what I did again step by step, I wanted to show you both ways of what you can do, so that way you know how to solve it. Okay, let's do one more together, and then you're going to have a practice problem on your own before your independent practice. So here again, identify the shape. This is a cone because I have a base and a vertex. So here's my vertex right here. Here's my base down here. I don't want to shade too much so I can make sure I see all the numbers I need. So the base is a circle. So if the base is a circle and you have a vertex, you know it's a cone. If the base is any other shape and it's three-dimensional with a vertex, then it's going to be a pyramid. Okay, so the area of the base is pi r squared. So here again, we know that the formula is volume equals 1/3 area of the base times height, or volume equals area of the base times height of the cone divided by 3. Okay, you could use either one of these. I'm going to use this way because traditionally I see a lot of more students understand it this way. So just know that this is the only way you're going to see it on your math chart. So if you want to take the extra 2 seconds just to rewrite it, I like this way. It's a little bit more user-friendly. you're not wrong if you use this way. You just have to be very, very careful. All right, so volume equals, well, the B is pi r squared because that's the area of the base, pi r squared, and then times height. Kept forgetting to write my blue H, and then divide by 3. Okay, so that's your formula right there for the volume of a cone. And your height is your distance between your vertex and your base. Okay, you could put a dot in between here, or parentheses, or a multiplication sign, but remember when a numbers are next to each, these symbols are next to letters, or numbers are right next to these letters as well, that means to multiply. So something to think about. So V equals pi. The radius, I'm going to go ahead and put that dot to help us out. The radius, well, this is from the outside through the center to the outside, so that means that the diameter is 8 centimeters. So to get from diameter to radius, remember we divide by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. So if you accidentally put 8 right here and do 8 to the second power and do everything else right, you're going to fall for a trick answer. So be careful. Double check what's labeled. Okay? Or label it yourself if it's not already labeled, which in this case it wasn't, but we figured it out. So times 4 squared times the height of the cone is 14. And don't forget to divide by 3. Remember, dividing by 3 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. So make sure to put this part in parentheses so we can make sure that everything's divided by 3, because if you don't, the calculator might just read that last part as 14 divided by 3, throws the whole thing off. So make sure we put parentheses first. So we're putting everything for that numerator, pi, in parentheses, pi times 4 squared, or pi times 4 times 14, and then close your parentheses. So that shows you everything for the numerator, and then divide by 3. And you should get 234 and 572 thousandths once we round it to the nearest thousandth. 234 and 572 thousandths, cubic centimeters. So if you typed this into your calculator and got something else, please reach out to your teacher so we can help you to see maybe what you typed in wrong, or maybe you messed up your formula and equation over here. So it's really important as you're watching these videos to check in with your teacher, because we want you to practice the right way. So volume of cylinders and cones could be a little bit more intense because you have that pi r squared, and then with cones, just like pyramids, if you forget to multiply by 1/3 or divide by 3, it throws the whole thing off. So be very careful and take your time. So in this last one, we want you to try this one on your own, and of course check in with your teacher. So start with your formula, label the parts you need, then make your equation, and go ahead and check in with what you got after that. All right, y'all, good luck. Thanks for your time today. I hope that this was helpful, and please reach out to us if you need help at any time.